Well, after what was an amazing season finale to the first season of IT Welcome to Derry, our time in 1962 has finally come to an end. Pennywise has gone back into hibernation, Ronnie left Derry, Lily felt like she was finally healing, and Marge and Will were going to be sticking around. However, even though there was a sense of conclusion, mystery was still at the heart of Pennywise, and the fact that he revealed how he perceived time as a loop and that he basically couldn't die. So that feels like something that's going to be explored and potentially answered in the new season. Plus, we also had Beverly Marsh appearing too, so what did that truly mean? Well, I wanted to share all that's known about the next season of the show and also give my theories and predictions on what I think could happen. Here is IT Welcome to Derry Season 2 Theories and Predictions Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers, so if you've not seen the show, pause the video, watch it, and then come back. The release date. We've now got in the habit of watching an episode of IT Welcome to Derry every week for the past 2 months, so the question that's on all of our minds right now is, when is it actually going to return? Well, before I get onto that, the most important question right now is if the show is even going to come back. As of right now, which is the day after the finale aired, HBO hasn't come out and said that the show has even been renewed for a second season, so they're still waiting on that green light. One would also have to imagine that with all of the controversy that's going on at the moment, with Netflix looking to acquire HBO and then Paramount swooping in as well, the backrooms at HBO might not be as fluid as what they previously were because a takeover might well be happening soon. But if we put that aside, and when looking at the success of IT Welcome to Derry, the premiere of the show was the third most watched series premiere ever on HBO Max. It was only House of the Dragon and The Last of Us that had bigger premieres than it, but even then, over the course of the season, it maintained steady viewership and continued to rise. This shows that the quality was improving and the viewers weren't only coming back for more, but new viewers were watching and sticking around as well. This is a crucial piece of viewer behavior data that doesn't always occur with shows, so it makes me think that IT Welcome to Derry will most probably be renewed for another season. It's been one of the most talked about shows of the season. As well as that, the director of the show, Andy Muschietti, has said that he has a 3-season plan for it, so one would hope HBO allows him to carry that out. So if we're saying that the show's going to get the green light, when are we likely to get a new season? In the modern day, TV shows normally take around 2 years to come back, unless you're an anomaly like The Bear. And with this show not being shot back to back, it makes me think that we're going to be following that timeline. It happens a lot with HBO shows. The White Lotus, House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, they all normally float around that 1.5 to 2 year period before a new season. So I'd predict that we'll get Season 2 of IT Welcome to Derry in around October of 2027 to align with Halloween again. It's a while to wait, but if it's anything like what this first season was, I'm sure it'll be worth it. The story. When it comes to the story for Season 2, it feels like after Pennywise quite literally said how time was essentially like a loop for him and that it didn't work in the same way as it did for us humans, it just simply opened up the possibilities to quite literally be endless when it comes to a timeline. The cosmic entity of it has been around for millions of years, so there are so many different time periods to choose from. However, Andy Muschietti has come out and said that he plans on making at least 2 more seasons. One set in 1935 and the other set in 1908, 2 time periods that we were actually teased with in this first season. I reckon the next season would most likely be set in 1935, as that's the time period that's closest to the one that we were currently in and the feeding cycle before. So we'd most likely still be able to see characters like Ingrid that would be able to return and eventually appear. If the story decides to be focused in 1935, that means we'll be within Derry during the time of the Great Depression after the Wall Street crash in 1929, and the civilians of Derry will be navigating through that struggling, fearful time. What will be quite interesting about this time period is that fear will kind of be present anyway without Pennywise needing to scare people, because during that time people were losing jobs, homes, and there was widespread economic panic. So the mindset of the town will be completely different to what we saw during the 1960s. Yes, there was the threat of the Cold War as we saw, but in 1935, people were living the first-hand effects of the Great Depression. So Pennywise's food will almost be coming in a pre-seasoned bag. When it comes to the main overarching stories in this time period, it does focus quite heavily on Ingrid Kersh and her connection to Pennywise following it killing her father and adopting the persona of Pennywise the Dancing Clown off of him. She essentially became a feeder for Pennywise, and he kept her alive because she was bringing him food in order to get time with what she believed was her father. So I imagine we're going to be seeing Ingrid doing those horrific things, and in turn we could see how her mental state started to deteriorate over the years. This makes me think that there's going to be a large focus on Juniper Hill. That could almost be the school of this season. The Bradley Gang Massacre is something that also occurs during this time period. It's essentially this time period's burning of the Black Spot. We were teased with the Bradley Gang during Season 1 when Al Bradley's car was brought up that Dick Halloran sensed, so it's definitely going to get a large focus. The Bradley Gang was made up of a group of bandits that were led by brothers Al and George Bradley, and they were criminals during the Great Depression that plagued the town. The massacre that occurred in the town was between the citizens in the show and also the gang. Citizens were said to have seen Pennywise during the massacre, which implies that Pennywise could well have been behind the violence that eventually unfolded. So I feel we're going to be seeing the Bradley Gang causing damage to an already fractured Derry and how it'll impact the ancient civilians too. Another main thing that I think we'll see being explored is focused around the way that Pennywise perceives time. As we found out, Pennywise can't actually die, and with Ingrid in the 1980s timeline saying no one who dies here ever really dies supported that. So I think, along with seeing Pennywise dealing with the Bradley Gang, the kids inside of Juniper Hill and Ingrid, we could also see him looking to target Marge's parents when they were younger if they were civilians of Derry at the time, because that way he could look to try and prevent his death. I do wonder though if Pennywise is actually locked into a cycle and once something happens it can't be undone. That's why he essentially froze and wasn't able to kill Marge. Halloran tapped in at the right point. Pennywise essentially had the entirety of the season to get Marge, but he wasn't able to. So I wonder if he's forced to relive the events and he'll just simply not be able to go past 2016. It's interesting to explore, and we don't know much about how he perceives time right now, other than the fact that he knows what's happened before, what's happened after, and he can do what he can to try and change the events. Do you know what? I wouldn't actually mind if he did end up taking out Marge's mother or father, and then everything that we saw became redundant, meaning that all of the events after in the movies wouldn't be correct either. It would just open up the possibilities even more. So with the new season most likely being set in 1935, this is what I think's most likely going to happen. The characters. When it comes to the characters, Andy has come out and said that if the new season does get greenlit, we'll see characters from this season returning, but they'd be younger, and we'd also see a load of new characters too. The next season would most likely take place in 1935, which would be centered around the Bradley Gang Massacre that occurred. This would most likely mean that we'd see Al and George Bradley, who'd be the leaders of the gang, and also the bandits that made up the group. We'd have new townspeople as they would have been involved in the shootout, and there'd most likely be a new sheriff and chief of police. When it comes to returning characters, I think we could most likely see Ingrid returning, but in her form of when she was younger. We'd most likely be introduced to more children in the show, but I think we'd see children from inside of Juniper Hill and them almost trying to escape the grasp of Ingrid as she was leading them to be fed. I also think this means we'll most likely be introduced to more members of staff that work at Juniper Hill too. We'll definitely have Bill Skarsgård returning as Pennywise the Clown, because without his chilling performance there wouldn't be a show, and as well with Marge touching on the fact that Pennywise might be going back in order to prevent the likes of the previous generation from being born. We could potentially see her parents' generation being hunted down by Pennywise in order to prevent Marge being born, which would then ultimately prevent Richie from being born the generation after, which led to Pennywise's death. For now, that's all that's truly known about IT Welcome to Derry Season 2. I'm hoping we'll find out soon if a new season is going to be greenlit, because that then means we can start theorizing and getting excited about what's on the horizon, even if it might well be 2 years away. So, there you have it. IT Welcome to Derry Season 2 Theories and Predictions Explained. If you want to see episodes of IT Welcome to Derry being broken down, then check the playlist below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. What do you think will happen in IT Welcome to Derry Season 2? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.